Well, hello everyone and welcome to this English lesson. Today we're going to talk about things inside of other things. Another vague topic where you might not be sure what I'm going to teach you today. Well, today you're going to learn about things like filling or center or a vacuum or bearings or I can't think of any off the top of my head. Passengers, secret ingredients, a whole bunch of words that you will use to describe things that you find inside of other things. Once again, similar to last week, even though the title of the lesson and the topic might seem hard to understand, all of the vocabulary words that you will learn today are very, very common in the English language. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about things inside of other things. I think you will enjoy it. So the first one I have is a pearl. Now, if you are lucky and you have an oyster and you open it, there is a chance there might be a pearl inside. A pearl is a beautiful, hard, white sphere that is often used in jewelry. I think the pearl is formed when the oyster gets a little bit of sand or grit inside of it, and it starts to add this really nice material to it in order to protect itself from that sand or grit. I'm not a pearl expert, but I do know one of the things that you might find inside an oyster is a pearl, and used exclusively for jewelry in the world. That is one of its main uses. When you eat some kinds of food, it might have a raisin inside, or it might have raisins inside if I use the plural. I do like raisins. Raisins are grapes that have been dried in the sun, and usually they have a little bit of sugar added to them, or they're certainly sweet even without added sugar. Here in Canada, you can buy buns with raisins in them. You can buy bread with raisins. People sometimes like to eat cinnamon raisin bread. I eat cinnamon raisin bread. It has raisins and cinnamon in it. It's very, very yummy. And you also might sometimes find chocolate chips in something. So chocolate chips are little tiny pieces of chocolate. If you like chocolate chip cookies, there are chocolate chips inside of chocolate chip cookies. I will say this though, I like raisins and I like chocolate chips, but what I don't like is sometimes I see a cookie at work. Maybe there's a plate of cookies in the staff room and they look like chocolate chip cookies, and I grab one and I bite it, but it ends up being an oatmeal raisin cookie. And even though it looked like a chocolate chip cookie, it's actually some kind of raisin cookie. That's the one situation where I don't like raisins. I don't like being tricked into eating raisins. If I think something is a chocolate chip cookie, I want it to be a chocolate chip cookie because I like those more than I like oatmeal raisin cookies. That's my little, one of my little pet peeves in life. When I bite into a cookie and I think it's chocolate chip and it ends up being some kind of raisin cookie. Battery. So often when you buy things, they'll have batteries in them. This remote control has a battery in it. I was going to open it up. Can I open it up? Is it bad to do things live? I can't get it open. Did you see my face when I'm trying to get it open? There we go. I got it open. I don't know if this will focus. It should focus. So there is a small battery inside there. There are many things that, does it still work now? Oh yes, it still works. There are many things that have batteries inside them. Although sometimes when you buy them, they don't have a battery inside and you have to buy the battery separately. But remote controls, phones, kids' toys sometimes have a battery inside. A clock on the wall will have a battery inside. And again, a battery is a small, usually cylindrical, there might be a new word for you, thing that has electricity in it. So it can produce electricity for a certain amount of time. And then the thing with the battery will stop working. Lead. So if you have a pencil, whether you have a normal pencil or a mechanical pencil, sometimes scientists and mathematicians will use a mechanical pencil, they will have lead inside. Now, it isn't actually lead. We call it lead, but I think it's actually graphite. What is inside a pencil? Yes, so it's graphite. The lead in a pencil isn't actually made from lead. It is made from a form of carbon called graphite. So again, if you have a mechanical pencil or a normal pencil that you need to sharpen, it will have lead inside, but it's not actually lead. Lead is a very heavy metal, and it's not actually good to have lead around you. I think we used to put lead in gasoline a long time ago. That was not a good idea. And of course, a pen will have ink in it. This is what we would call a ballpoint pen. I don't know if everyone calls it that anymore because we just call it a pen. It has a small ball inside, and the ball turns and then ink goes onto the paper. So a pen has ink in it. A pencil has lead in it. When you drive your car, the wheels turn really smoothly because there is something inside called a bearing. A bearing is a small thing with little steel balls or rollers in it, and it makes something on an axle or shaft turn very, very smoothly. It also makes it so that things don't heat up because of friction. Very detailed explanation here. But when you drive a vehicle, when you ride a bike, when you drive a car, the wheels turn smoothly because in the very center, there is something called a bearing. And that bearing just allows the wheel to turn freely with very little friction and in a way that makes the ride very quiet. I recently, just 2 days ago, had to have a bearing replaced on my van because it was making a sound, like a droning sound. And I thought, that's not good. There's something wrong. So I took it to my mechanic and he said it was a bearing. The bearing needed to be replaced. There are a lot of things these days that have a circuit board or circuitry inside of them. A circuit board is something you find inside of a remote control. You would find a circuit board inside of a phone. You would find a circuit board inside of almost anything that takes batteries, probably has a circuit board in it. Again, we call it a circuit board or circuitry. We could use those terms interchangeably, but certainly in our modern world, there are a lot of things that have circuit boards or circuitry inside of them. It kind of helps to make them smart. My camera probably has a circuit board in it. My van has a couple of computers in it that have circuit boards inside of them. A spring. So springs are things that can be compressed. And when you compress a spring, it wants to go back to its normal shape. So again, if you have a spring and you push it down, you compress the spring, but the spring will always want to go back to its normal shape. There are still springs in a lot of things. My camera has a little door, and when I close it, it snaps shut at the end because there must be a spring inside. I'm looking around. I know any pen that clicks in and out, there's a little spring inside the pen. If you take the pen apart, there's a little spring inside. I think your bed might have springs as well to make it comfortable. But yes, a spring is usually made out of metal. It can be made from plastic. But a spring is something that you will find inside of many, many things. Mechanism. Sometimes we don't know how to describe what is inside of something, and we'll use the word mechanism. If you took an old-fashioned watch apart, it would probably have a mechanism inside. It would have gears and springs. It would have the thing that you turn to wind it. We would call it a mechanism. When you take a picture with a camera, if there's a shutter that opens and closes still, like an older camera, we would say it's the shutter mechanism. So it's kind of a general term to describe moving parts inside of something. If there was something in my car that was broken, let's say the brakes weren't working, and where the brakes go back and forth, we would call it the brake mechanism. The technical term is caliper or brake rotor and caliper, but you could just say, there's something wrong with the mechanism. So again, mechanism is used to describe moving parts inside of something. I have a lot of farm equipment, and I would say, the turning mechanism is broken in this piece of equipment if I was describing it to someone. So a general term for moving parts inside of something. Now, this happened more when I was a kid. I'm not sure if this still happens, but when I was a kid, when you bought cereal, it often had a prize inside. I was trying to find out yesterday if this is illegal in Canada now. But when I was a kid, often we would get cereal and we would fight because there would be a prize in the bottom of the cereal box, maybe a small toy or something else that kids enjoy. They would put a prize in the box so that kids would really want their parents to buy that cereal. So we would often get a little toy. Right now, I think you can still buy Kinder Surprises. It's a chocolate egg. And when you open it up, there's a prize inside. It's very, very cool. Around here, we have a lot of maple trees, and they have sap inside. But it's not just maple trees that have sap. There are some flowers that Jen and I grow that when we cut the stem, a little bit of liquid comes out, and that liquid is called sap. Sap is usually sticky. It makes your fingers stick together. Sap from maple trees can be turned into maple syrup. But a lot of growing things, a lot of plants have sap inside. And if you cut them open or if you cut them, you will see some of that sap come out. Maple syrup is very delicious, by the way. If you haven't tried it, you should. Old light bulbs, not the new ones. Most light bulbs now are not incandescent, but older light bulbs had a small wire called a filament inside. And when electricity went through that wire, it would get hot and produce light. It would start to glow. So a filament is a small wire inside of a light bulb, usually an older light bulb. Although I think the light bulbs they use in some projectors might still have a filament in it. I'm not sure if everything has been replaced with fluorescent or LED. By the way, 3 types of light bulb. Incandescent, that's the old-fashioned kind. Fluorescent is a light bulb with gas on the inside that lights up. And then LED, which is the new style, all the tiny, tiny little bulbs. So the older style light bulb had a filament inside. And eventually the filament would break and the light bulb would stop working. Now you might think I forgot to change the picture here, but that's not true. I didn't know how else to describe a vacuum. A vacuum is inside of certain things, and a vacuum is a complete lack or almost a complete lack of air. So older style light bulbs either had a vacuum inside, probably so there was no oxygen in the bulb, would have a partial vacuum or a vacuum inside, or it might have an inert gas. Getting a little technical here, but a vacuum would be the absence of air. When you go to outer space, there's a vacuum. There's no air. When you have something like an old-fashioned light bulb, often there is a vacuum inside. They've removed the air so that there's no chance of a fire starting. That's why I think they removed the air. Not 100% sure. Remember, these are English lessons, not science lessons. When you eat an apple, when you are done eating the apple, you have the core. The core is the inside of the apple, the very center. So oftentimes when I eat an apple, it looks like the one on the far part of this picture where there's still lots of apple left. That's a really big apple core. And then close to me, you have someone who did a really good job eating their apple. So it's a very small apple core. Again, we aren't talking about the seeds. They are part of the core, but this entire thing is called the apple core. It's the part of the apple that you don't eat. Not all fruit has a core, but apples do. And the earth also has a core. So the earth, the entire planet, the center of the earth, we would call the earth's core. And then I just mentioned seeds. We often call them pits. When you eat cherries, there's a pit in the center. When you eat a peach, there's a pit in the center. It's also the seed for that plant. The seed is what you put in the ground and it will grow. I think some people might call them pips. I think when we eat watermelon, we call the little seeds in a watermelon pips, like P-I-P-S. I'm not 100% sure about that. Let me double check that for a sec. Watermelon pips. Yes, watermelon seeds, sometimes called pips. So a pip is the portion that surrounds the seeds in seed varieties. Okay, again, not a science lesson, but when you eat fruit, on the inside you will find seeds, or you might find a pit, but definitely they are in the inside. By the way, pit, I think, happens when there's only one of them. There's a fly here. I think seeds we use when there's more than one. But like a peach has a pit, a cherry has a pit, an apricot has a pit. There's just one in the very center. Air. So we all like driving or riding comfortably in vehicles. One of the reasons that's possible is because there's air inside of the tires. If you play a sport, there's usually air inside of the ball. It makes things bouncy or softer. When I drive my car, if I go over a small rock, I don't feel it because there's shock absorbers, but also because there's air in the tires. So a few things here. Sometimes the air goes out of the tire. Sometimes the tire is low, so you have to pump up the tire. That's how we talk about tires in English. Oh, one of the tires is low on my car. I need to pump up the tire. I need to pump it up. So something that you find inside of a tire would be air. And if you have a balloon, it also might have air in it. But if it floats, it most likely has helium in it. This is something you find inside of balloons at birthday parties, or if you go to a fair or something like that. There will most likely be balloons that you can buy or win with a string, and the balloon will have helium inside of it, and that will make the balloon float. If the balloon only has air in it, it won't float. If it has helium in it, it will float. And if a child has one and they let go of the string, it will just go up into the sky forever and eventually land in Bob the Canadian's field. Sometimes we find helium balloons in our field. When there's parties in local towns, we will later find balloons that have popped in our fields. Sometimes something will have a secret ingredient inside of it. So if you like KFC, if you like the McDonald's Big Mac, KFC chicken has a secret ingredient. People don't know exactly how they make the chicken taste that way. They don't know exactly what spices are put in the chicken. So it's called a secret ingredient or secret ingredients. So I think there's 11 herbs and spices or 7 herbs and spices in KFC chicken, but no one knows exactly what they use because they don't want other people to make the same chicken. They want it to be a secret. So they have secret ingredients. No one will tell you what those ingredients are. A passenger. So anytime you are not driving, anytime you are in any type of vehicle, you are a passenger. You can be a passenger on a train. You can be a passenger on a plane. You can be a passenger in a car. You can be a passenger on the back of a motorcycle. So if you are not operating the vehicle, if you are not driving the vehicle, you are inside of it and you are a passenger. By the way, you're not inside of a motorcycle. Bad example there. But if you're on a bus, you're a passenger. If you're on a subway, you're a passenger. So roots. So in the soil, you will find roots. If you dig in the soil, you will find roots inside the soil. Plants grow upwards, but they also grow down into the soil. So Jen and I always try to create really good soil so that our plants have healthy roots. If a plant has healthy roots, it can absorb lots of nutrients and water and grow really well. So roots are very, very important. We try to make sure we prepare the soil well so our plants will have healthy roots. Filling. So if you buy a donut, there is most likely a filling inside the donut. If it's a Boston cream donut, that's this variety. Or if it's a jelly-filled donut. Anytime you eat something and there's something inside of it like that, we call it a filling. It might be a cream, it might be pudding, it might be some kind of jam or fruit sauce paste. We call it a filling. So when I buy donuts, I like this kind of donut because I like the filling. The part inside it's almost like whipped cream or something. I don't know if you have this type. An eclair also might have a filling. Very, very yummy. I'll make this bigger so you can see how yummy it is. That looks very yummy. Now I am craving a donut. When you crave something, it means you really, really want it. We also sometimes just call it the center. So when you eat an Oreo cookie, there is a white, yummy center. You could also call this a filling. Anytime there's something in between, you could call it the center. Again, I'm Canadian, so I spell center this way. That's not a typo, but I spell it with an R-E instead of an E-R. If you were in America, it would be C-E-N-T-E-R. But yes, I like the center of the Oreo. It's very, very yummy. And again, you could call it the filling as well. The center, the filling. A couple terms for talking about stuff that is inside of food. Ingredients. Anytime you buy something in Canada and in almost any country, on the side of the box or on the side of the can, it will tell you what's inside. It will tell you the ingredients. Usually in Canada, the first ingredient is flour or sugar. We eat a lot of things made from flour and a lot of things with sugar in them. But yes, the ingredients are the things that they used to make the food. Someone asked earlier about pizza. The ingredients for pizza, what's in pizza would be flour, oil, water, salt, maybe a tiny bit of sugar. Pizza crust, by the way, or pizza dough. By the way, pizza dough is before you bake it, and pizza crust is what we call it after we bake it. The ingredients. Contents. So this is a general term as well. You can use contents to describe what's inside of a drawer, what's inside of a box. You could even say what's inside of an apartment. Like the person left, but they left it's just full of their contents yet. Or what are the contents of that drawer? Let's open this box and see what the contents are. So it's a way to describe what's inside of something when you don't know exactly what it is. Usually a drawer or box. Those would be the two most common times to use contents. Toppings. So this is kind of a funny one because, I don't want to make it too big. Toppings, the word makes it sound like these things are on the very top. So when you have a hamburger, you put different toppings on it, but they are actually inside the hamburger. Let's pretend the microphone is the patty. So you have a bun, and then right here you have the toppings. So you might have barbecue sauce, mushrooms, bacon, mayonnaise, pickles, mustard, lettuce, tomato, onion, ketchup. Those would all be toppings. Some of them are also considered condiments, like ketchup and mayonnaise and mustard and barbecue sauce. You could call condiments as well. But toppings, they're on top of the patty, but they're under the top bun. So they are inside of the hamburger. And other things too, right? Like you can put toppings on a hot dog, etc., etc. I guess with a hot dog, the toppings are actually on top. But with a hamburger, the toppings are inside. Sometimes there's nothing inside, and we just say it's hollow. When I was a kid, we would sometimes get a chocolate Easter bunny at Christmas, and sometimes it was solid. That was really, really cool because it would be a lot of chocolate. But sometimes we would bite into it and we would realize that it was hollow. There's nothing inside. So there was less chocolate. So when something is hollow, it means it's empty inside. But it has to be something like this is hollow. A tree can be hollow. I'm trying to think. It's not everything that we would describe as hollow. But definitely when you buy a small toy, if If it's not solid, we would say it's hollow inside. So yeah, I'm having trouble explaining this exactly, but this is definitely hollow. There's nothing inside. Kind of a funny word to say too, hollow. A CPU. So a computer has a central processing unit. It has a CPU. It is the brain of the computer. So if you open up a computer, on the inside, you will find a CPU somewhere. It might even have more than one CPU, but it will definitely have a CPU, central processing unit. So inside of days, we have minutes. Inside of hours, we have minutes. Sorry, inside of days, we have hours and minutes. Inside of hours, we have minutes and seconds. Inside of the week, we have days. So you can describe time, like how many days in a week, how many hours in a day, those kinds of things. We use the preposition in as well. So inside of 1 minute, there's 60 seconds. Inside of an hour, there's 60 minutes. I think I'm saying this right. I'm getting distracted during the lesson. I should just slow down and think about things as I say them. Let me see here. Occupant. So this is a more formal term for someone who is in a building or even in a vehicle. So you could say this vehicle can have 7 occupants. That means it can have 7 people in it. This elevator or lift, if you're in Britain, this lift has a maximum occupancy of 10 people. You can only have 10 occupants. Sometimes you get mail and it says to the occupant of, and then your address because they don't know the name. So an occupant is a person inside of an apartment or a house or inside of a vehicle. We usually use passenger, but you might read a news story that says there was a car accident and the one car had 3 occupants, the other car had 2 occupants, or they might say passengers. Although if you're the driver, you're not a passenger. So occupant might be more common. Sometimes there's just nothing inside. This would be a very sad gift to get. There's nothing in this box. If Jen gave me this present and I opened it, I would say, oh, there's nothing inside. How disappointing. I was really hoping for a gold necklace. I don't ever wear necklaces, but that was just an example. Sometimes when you open an envelope, it will have a letter or card inside. So an envelope is something you get in the mail. When you open it, there might be a card that says happy birthday on the inside, or there might be a letter inside. Very nice things to receive. And then you might have something that has a motor in it. A motor is something that turns when it has power. So it might be an electrical motor or it might be a gas motor. We sometimes call a gas motor an engine. But if you were to open up your vacuum cleaner, there is a motor inside. If you have a clock on the wall that still has like hands on it that go tick, there's a small motor inside of that. If you use a blender in the kitchen or a mixer in the kitchen, it has a motor inside. Something that when it receives electricity, it turns. And inside of a pencil sharpener, you will find shavings. So when you sharpen a pencil or when you sharpen a pencil, the pieces that come off we would call shavings. They are shavings from the pencil.